capo on the 3rd fret here because nominally that suits my voice better, but actually at this point I don't think there's any particular key where I'm going to come out on top. Never mind, I'm going to play this as if in A minor. Obviously you're free to play this wherever you like. The original, I'm not sure. You often see older song sheets in A minor and B minor. There's a very well-known version by Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong together where it kicks off in B minor for Ella, and then Louis plays along with his trumpet or cornet, and then when Louis comes in, the whole thing shifts wholesale to E minor, just as long as he's singing, and then comes back to B minor. It's a little reassuring to know that pros at that level are having to fish around for the right key too. Anyway, look, in my fantasy version of this video, I'm going to give you some really, really basic chords to begin with. We'll carve out the structure with just straight cowboy chords, and then bit by bit we'll embellish those chords and give you other options and change things around until eventually, miraculously, seamlessly, we're going to end up with a beautiful kind of jazz guitar arrangement of this. I think it's going to be a little bit more segmented than that, but let's just start with a basic version. And anyway, we've got 16 bars. It's a verse that just repeats, and it's 2 8-bar sections, and in the simplest version of this we're going to kick off with 4 bars of straight A minor. Summertime and the living is easy. Now D minor for 2. Fish are jumping and the cotton is, and now we get to E7 high. That's the first half done. The second half kicks off with the same 4 bars of A minor. Your dad is rich, 2, 3, 4, and your ma is good looking. Now we get to a chord of C. So hush, little baby, D7, don't you, back to A minor, cry. And if you want to sing another verse, which of course you do, you're going to throw in an E7 to get you back to the top. One of these mornings, and that's it. So 4 bars of A minor, 2 of D minor, and 2 of E7. In the second half, again, 4 bars of A minor, and now we're going to go to C for a bar, D7 for a bar, A minor for a bar, and E7 to take us into a second verse. It's worth noting that those last 4 bars there, in fact from the A minor, you've got your first finger on the second string at the 1st fret. When you go to C, that first finger stays there. For D7, that stays there, and back to A minor. So if you're at the stage where you're just getting into grips with basic chords, that's quite a nice way to orient yourself. In fact, we're going to change up all of these chords, or at least most of them. And straight away, a very simple thing we could do to add a bit of colour is to change our A minor to A minor 7. So I'm opening the 3rd string, and now we have summertime and the living is easy. Same for D minor. I'm going to make it D minor 7. And you might use 3 separate fingers there on the top 2 strings at the 1st fret, or you may bar across the 1st and 2nd strings at the 1st fret. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Your dad is rich, there you go, and your ma is good looking. So hush, C just as before, little baby, D7, don't you cry, A minor 7 to E7. And that's a very simple shift, isn't it? That A minor 7 shape and that E7 shape are the same, just on different strings. 2nd and 4th string, and then 3rd and 5th string. Okay. Let's just add another level of detail here. This A minor 7, and I mean I've played this song for at least 40 years, and you know, when I was busking in the early 80s, I'd probably do this just to give it a bit of colour. I'm taking my A minor 7 shape and just moving it up a couple of frets. Summertime and the living is easy. It's a very simple little way to add a bit of interest and colour on that A minor 7. In fact, let's go a little further. 2nd and 1st frets, 4th and 3rd frets, and then I'm going to keep my 2nd finger there on the 4th string, move it up to the 5th fret, my 3rd finger is going to come onto the 5th fret of the 2nd string. So now I've got this. Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and actually you could probably do the same thing here. I'm just going to move that up to the 3rd and 4th frets. And the cotton is high. Okay, so there's just a little detail that you could add, depending on how you're playing this. Summertime, that kind of thing. And you might want to do some folk picking, maybe. A little bit of Travis picking there. I'm not going to go into details. I've got plenty of videos, including a recent bluegrass song that I've covered, Shady Grove. That'll give you all the info you need. And by the time this video's up, Shady Grove will definitely be up on YouTube. So take a look at that, and that'll give you a bit more of an insight into the sort of things you might do there. Okay, so there's that. Another little detail to add on our 2 bars of E7 in bars 7 and 8. On the original, there's a little figure that happens in the orchestra, and I'm going to incorporate there 2 bars. My 2 bars of E7 is going to be 2 beats of E7, then B7 for 2. So we get that kind of a thing. Never mind about my singing. So now we've got E7 for 2, B7 for 2, and E7 for another bar. So let's just have all of that, including all the little kind of bits and bobs that we've now got. Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Your dad is rich and your mom is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't. We'll come back to this D7 in a second. You cry. We're in danger here of getting a little bit funky, and if we are, then for our E7 here, let me add. Oh, there you go. I'm going to put a finger across the 3rd fret of the top 2 strings along with my standard E7 shape, giving me E7 sharp 9. So starting to take on a little bit of a different flavour here. Okay, back to that D7 towards the end. So hush, little baby, don't is in the melody. The E is there, so I'm going to put an E on top of my D7. I'm going to do it this way. Don't. And that's actually an authentic chord from the original arrangement, so we're starting to close in on something a bit more interesting. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. Okay, and so I'm playing this with my 1st finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string, 2nd and 3rd fingers either side on the 5th fret of the 5th and 3rd strings, and my little fingers tucked up there on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, although you could just smush that 3rd finger across the top 3 strings. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. Okay, we're starting to get something with a little bit more interest now. And if that's enough, if that's what you want to do, if you want to play a kind of a more rocky version, almost like a kind of Santana version of it or something, or a nice finger-picked thing like maybe Ava Cassidy might have done, then that's probably enough. But if you want to change it up one more gear, let's go to the original score and find the authentic sound that Gershwin had. And it's this, an A minor with an F sharp at the top. top, straight A minor chord, and I'm putting my little finger on the 2nd fret. There's a lot of F sharp. And in fact, in the strings, we get summertime and the living. We're moving between F sharp and G sharp, which aren't necessarily obvious notes for A minor, but, and again, without wanting to get too far into the theory, it means that the harmony comes from A melodic minor, which is a really unique sound. So I'm going to play A minor 6, and the 2nd chord that we alternate to around A minor is really this. I'm just taking that whole shape and moving it up 2 frets. Summertime and the living. Okay, for you theory nerds, what's really happening here is we've got A minor 6. The 2nd chord is E7, but with a 9, and without the E in the bass, so it's E9 over B. And actually that boils down to being B minor 6. That would be the extension of that chord with B in the bass. So we can call that, okay, theory over, we can call that A minor 6 to B minor 6. Summertime and the living. That gives us something of the original feel, but I'd like to play these elsewhere, something a bit more sustainable. I'm going to do this. I've got my 2nd finger on the 5th fret of the bottom string, my 1st finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string, that's the 6, and then I've got my 3rd finger folded across the 5th fret of the 2nd and 3rd strings, and all together I'm playing that there. It's an A minor 6, a very versatile, very useful shape, used a lot in jazz. You'll see this in bossa nova and so on a lot too. And if I play that, I can simply move it 2 frets higher for my B minor 6. So that's what I'm going to do. And that gives us a real sound of the melodic minor, which, as I say, is the character of this tune. You'll notice now, rather than strumming, I'm just picking with 4 fingers, thumb on the bottom, and then I'm keeping my chord tones to the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings mostly. So most of the shapes we're going to be looking at now just use 4 strings. In fact, that's probably true for all of them. Let's have a look. Anyway, the first 4 bars this way. Summertime and the living is easy. Nice. In the next 4 bars, D minor 7 again, but again a bit more of a jazz style shape there. It is just a straight bar chord, A minor 7 type bar chord on the 5th fret. It's not really a jazz shape, but it is a bar chord. Fish are jumping. In the original, the strings now move up to an F in the bass, so I'm going to revoice that same chord, D minor 7, but with F in the bass, and it's going to come out like this. As an F6, same notes in F6 as D minor 7. Fish are jumping, and then it moves up again to A in the bass, and I'm going to voice it like this, just an F chord on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings, little diagonal line of dots there, open 5th string, but I'm also going to add the open top string. And the cotton is high. Okay, it's starting to sound a bit more like the original now. But right before that E7, I'm going to put this in. D sharp diminished. Again, this is original to the composition. D sharp diminished. You can play that a bunch of different ways. I'm going to play it there though. And so the whole of the 2nd section. Fish are jumping and the cotton is just on the 4th beat there. High, oh wait a minute, oh wait a minute. Okay. Now actually, right before we go back, we've got this. And that's a B flat 7 flat 5. Again, you could play that a couple of places, but that's it. We've got the E at the top, as we have for a lot of these chords. The melody notes there. Oh, I know. But that's a tritone sub for the E7, and that's just what he puts in there as a different voicing really. It's E7 flat 5 turned on its head. 1st finger's on the 2nd string at the 5th fret. My 2nd finger's here on the 6th string at the 6th fret, my 3rd finger's on the 6th fret of the 4th string, and then my little finger's up on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. I hope I've got that right. So, fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Here we go. Okay. Second half. Your dad is rich and your ma is good looking. Now on the original we get more melodic minor, and if you're interested in the theory, the melodic minor contains a stretch of notes from the 3rd to the 7th, in this case C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, that are all a whole tone apart, and Gershwin uses that. He exploits the kind of whole tone quality of that part of the scale. And we end up then in that little melody that plays behind the tune in the orchestra on a G sharp, and I'm going to voice that just like the B flat 7 flat 5, but 2 frets lower. So it's really A flat 7 flat 5 or D 7 flat 5. They're equivalents. My 1st finger's now on the 3rd fret, but otherwise it's the same shape as we just had for that B flat 7 flat 5. Hope this is making sense. So I'm going to play that there. Your dad is rich and your ma is good looking. Oh, ba do ba dee. Now C, and I'm going to play plain old C. So hush, little, going to my A minor 6, baby. Remember that D9? Don't. You can see how that A minor 6 and the D9 are very similar to each other. So hush, little baby, don't. And here's a really beautiful chord. It's an F over G or a D minor 7 over G. I'm just playing it like this. I mean, you'll see this in Wichita Lineman and a whole bunch of much more folky, acoustic-driven songs than this. 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the bottom string, and that same kind of diagonal shape I had just now for the F major 7 over A. I've got that, but I'm playing it with a G in the bass. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. And at the end, if you want to go back to the beginning to sing the 2nd verse, you want an E7. But let's change it up. We had an E7 sharp 9 before. I'm actually going to play an E7 with a sharp 5. Like this. My 1st finger's just across the 2nd and 3rd strings at the 1st fret, including then the open 6th string and the open 4th string. And that is it. One of these mornings. Okay, so let me play you, if I can, the whole of the 2nd half, and then we're ready for a playthrough. Your dad is rich and your ma is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. Okay, well look, thanks for watching. I hope that made some sort of sense. I'm going to play through a couple of verses of this and hopefully see you on the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Your papa's rich and your ma's good looking. we'll take to the sky. Until that morning, ain't nothing can hide. With your mama and papa standing by. And that's it.